One, this is the University of Michigan taking on Kent State. This should be a blowout. This is an A team versus a B team. Night 2 of the DNC saw what once was the A team of the Democratic Party set the stage up for the JV squad. And with all the talk about what is weird, let's get into Tim Walz. Something's off. Something's weird. Something is not right with Tim Walz. And something is very, very wrong with the economic policies that could lead to a cratering in the economy of America. 2, reject binary thinking. Think critically, outside the box and outside of the two parties. A conversation with Timpf. And 3, Brian Flores told Tua Tagovailoa, the quarterback of the Miami Dolphins, that he wasn't any good, that he didn't belong, that he's the reason that they lose every day when Flores was the head coach of the Miami Dolphins. But I thought the reason he was no longer employed at the highest levels of the NFL was because of racism. It couldn't be simply the personality of Brian Flores. It is the Will Cain Show, streaming live at foxnews.com, on the Fox News YouTube channel, and the Fox News Facebook page. Always on demand, wherever you get your audio entertainment, at Apple or on Spotify. Just simply hit subscribe, and you can listen to the Will Cain Show whenever and however you like. If you're watching us on Facebook or YouTube, figure out a way to set reminders. Join us every Monday through Thursday live at 12 o'clock Eastern Time. The easiest is underneath the text description of this live stream. There's a little button to subscribe to the Will Cain Show on YouTube. Scenario: your girl walks in. You're sitting in your living room. You're relaxed. You're comfy. Some sweats. Maybe even you're a little dressed up because she bought you some Lululemon or Vuori. So you're in your athleisure. And you're playing a little Madden. You're playing a little College Football 25. You're playing FIFA. You're playing Call of Duty. Is there any bigger turnoff for your lady? Not just your lady friend, but your special lady, than you playing video games. So says a commentator on X, that the most unattractive hobby for a man is video games. Perhaps not uncoincidentally, a lot of video game players back in the studios in New York City of the Will Cain Show. The Willisha manning the control room is, I think, chock full of unattractive hobbied men. And I thought about this, and I want to defend you guys because, hey, you're my ride or dies. You're my team. You're my militia. You're the Willisha. And also, it would just play really good on social media for me to defend a bunch of dudes who sit around on social media wearing jerseys and playing College Football 25. But I got to tell you, she might have a point. If you walk in on a dude playing video games, I would just have to think among the things that climb the peak of Mount Masculinity, it falls short. It's a small anthill. It's turnoff for the ladies. Silence.
Yeah.
No defense from the boys in New York. You can't even mount. That's how emasculated you are.
Oh, no.
You're so...
I think it's fine.
You're so Tim Walz. You're so Tim Walz to America's Kamala Harris.
Whew.
You know what it means. There's something off about Tim Walz.
There's nothing wrong with playing video games.
Yeah, I think I look just fine in my athleisure. But, I mean, start explaining cover 2, load in the box, all the different intricacies that go into this game, and just kind of show off the brain a little that goes into it.
I haven't played sci-fi video games. It's fun.
Yeah. Trust me, boys. You start playing, you explaining cover 2, she starts purring. Yeah, that's what's working for you.
So you're saying when I go out this weekend, I shouldn't tell her about my Road to Glory player?
No.
Yeah, I think that's the only thing worse is she walks in on you playing video games versus she runs into you at a bar and you start telling her about your video games. Yeah, you're scoring, I'm sure. You're scoring in College Football 25 and in the bar. But here's the debate. Here's the question for us today. We'll hit this a little bit later on the Will Cain Show. What is the converse? What is the most unattractive hobby for a woman? What's the biggest turnoff for you if you find out she's really into, say, needlepoint or being an Instagram influencer? What's the biggest turnoff for men when it comes to women? We're going to rank some of these a little bit later on the Will Cain Show, both ways. Video games for men, Instagram influencer for women. That's coming up a little bit later. You can join in, jump into the comment section on YouTube, hit us up on social media. We'll bring you here into the Will Cain Show. But it was night 2 at the DNC. So let's break down our 3 takeaways from night 2 at the Democratic National Convention. Story number 1. Night 2 at the DNC saw your varsity players take center stage. When Barack Obama took the stage last night, one can disagree with his politics, one can disagree with his philosophy, but I think one has to come away going, that's when politics was at the top of its game. Barack Obama can deliver a speech. Barack Obama can command a crowd. You'll soon hear from, as well, Bill Clinton. And you'll remember what it meant to actually be able to execute the X's and O's, the cover 2, in the words of young establishment James. The actual plays of politics. You saw varsity. You saw A-team. And it only puts into context, I think, for me, where we are at this point in 2024. Kamala Harris and Tim Walz represent junior varsity. They represent, as Jessica Tarloff told us in Monday's episode of The Will Cain Show, a blank slate. They represent a return to an election for the 9th straight year that is simply a referendum on Donald Trump. But because everything in politics since 2016 has been about Donald Trump, that has meant that not only any manner of personality, but any manner of policy has been able to sneak by in the shadows of darkness of the night. Lack of attention. And all of a sudden you're running out there, your junior varsity quarterback, hoping to win the state championship. Here's what I mean. First, Tim Walz. Something is off with Tim Walz. Yesterday on the Will Cain Show, Trey Gowdy said Republicans win when we talk about the issues and when we talk about policy. Democrats win when Republicans talk about personality, when they make ad hominem attacks. And I think that's right from Gowdy. I think it's unwise. I think it's not smart to talk about whether or not Kamala Harris is black or Indian, to talk about Kamala Harris's LSAT score. It's better to talk about the failed job of protecting the American border. But I also can't step away from also saying it like it is. And something's off with Tim Walz. I mean, I want you to look. Last night, Kamala Harris and Tim Walz took to the stage at Fiserv Arena in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, the place where, just 1 month ago, the Republican Party held their convention. And here comes Tim Walz walking out. And I'm just going to tell you right now, no matter what Mina Kimes of ESPN says about her preferred form of masculinity and that Tim Walz represents a less toxic form of masculinity, I don't know a single dude over the age of 16 that acts like that. That's the bottom line. I don't know anybody, and I don't know if you do either, who walks out and does the double hand wave overhead double hand wave. Okay? That's the cold hard truth. That's much less a guy who's served in the military, much less a high school football coach. Now, maybe Tim Walz is playing a character. Maybe he's playing the character that we've been delivered for probably some 20-odd years in America, and that's the bumbling, middle-aged white dude dad in a sitcom who gets everything wrong and is the butt of the joke. Maybe that's the character that Democrats want to see. Maybe that's their definition of masculinity. But what I'm seeing right there from Tim Walz, I'll just say this. It's weird. If that's how we're going to define modern political discourse, what's normal and what's weird, that right there is weird. And it's not the weirdest thing about Tim Walz. We've gone over this over the last couple of weeks since he's been named the vice presidential candidate under Kamala Harris. Tim Walz has trouble with the truth, and that is the truth. Now, if one is sitting here listening to me, and I got some notes last week when I hosted Jesse Waters Primetime from some very notable figures over the last half century in media, very notable, formative figures in my life and my career in terms of who I looked up to on the TV and who I've had the privilege now to get to know. I got some notes from people saying, how can you pull out Tim Walz's tenuous relationship with the truth when his opposition is Donald Trump, who has a tenuous relationship with the truth? That's always the rebuttal. First of all, that's not a good enough rebuttal. It's just not. You know, it's not good enough to say, oh, yeah, but you are too. What more, I think these conversations have to delve into specifics. Point out to me the lie. I'm not going to sit here and say Donald Trump is a paragon of 100% honesty, that he never exaggerates, that he never isn't guilty of hyperbole, or that he's always told the truth. But I think we have to go through them one by one because I know that most of the things that have been called lies have been truths, and most things that have been called truths have been lies since center stage was taken over by Donald Trump. But Tim Walz, in a short period of time, walking out with both hands raised above his head, doing a double wave to the crowd, straight arm, no bend in the elbow, since he's walked out on center stage with that wave, has been exposed for a very, very, very tenuous relationship with the truth. Here, we've walked through it. He has, A, exaggerated his military service. Not his 24 years in service, which is commendable and should be applauded, should be honored. But he has, and this is simply a fact, exaggerated that service to make the electorate, once he became a politician, believe he is deployed into combat. And he is not. He has put out press release. He has made statements saying he's carried weapons of war in war, that he's deployed in support of Operation Enduring Freedom. He deployed to Italy. He did not deploy to Afghanistan or Iraq, and in fact, stepped out of his military service and away from his unit months before they deployed to actual combat in Iraq and Afghanistan. He has exaggerated that service. B, Tim Walz, when he was a high school football coach in Nebraska, was arrested for drunk driving. He was taken in. He was administered the breathalyzer. Ultimately, he got out on some technicalities, had it pled down to a lower charge. But in politics, he turned that into he wasn't guilty, that he drove to and from the police station. The officer didn't think he was drunk. Those are not just a tenuous relationship with the truth and not simply exaggerations. Those are lies. The officer himself has said, that's not true. The police department that arrested Tim Walz said, that's not true. Anyone who was at the police station that night said he didn't drive himself, and no officer would allow him to drive himself to the police station. He went on, by the way, to move to Minnesota, become a football coach in Minnesota, and run for political office, and lie about his past in drunk driving. Okay, this is where somebody listening goes, well, you know, Donald Trump, exaggeration. Donald Trump doesn't tell a lie. Let's stick with Tim Walz for just a moment. Instead of deflection, and instead of you are too, let's just kind of start adding it up. Because every politician is guilty of lies and exaggeration. But now we're at 2. We're at 2 in about 2 to 3 weeks of national spotlight. Again, hands raised above his head, straight arm, no elbows, double wave to the crowd. Then there is Tim Walz saying on MSNBC that he and his wife conceived their children through IVF, making an argument against various regional proposals from Republicans to regulate IVF. He tells a personal story, personal narrative that IVF is responsible for his family. It's not true, and it was even called out on CNN.
J.D. Vance knows nothing about that, and then he keeps going into all of these things. Today's IVF day. Thank God for IVF. My wife and I have 2 beautiful children. Now,
that's not accurate, right? I mean, It wasn't IVF. It was a different procedure, and his wife, Gwen Walz, the First Lady of Minnesota, is taking care to tell CNN that they actually used a procedure called intrauterine insemination. IUI. It's a process she described it as incredibly personal, difficult experience. They did use fertility treatments. It wasn't IVF.
Any woman
Come here, Sergeant Major.
I'm sorry.
Hold on. I want to.
Any one of the 1 in 7 women who goes through fertility treatments, IUI is part of the suite of fertility treatments. It's a step below IVF. It's direct insemination versus creating embryos. I think that is a stretch to say that it's not part of the broader fertility treatment.
The way they explain it is he just talks like how regular people talk.
I mean, my husband wouldn't know the difference.
First of all,
Well, but Alyssa Farah then goes on CNN there to say, even, and I'm not here to debate the merits of any type of regulation on IVF, but even under those proposals from regional Republicans, it would not include IUI. So the point is, he exaggerated his personal experience to act as though Republicans would have kept him from creating his family. At C, and D is, as we've had Pete Hegseth and others on, he might not have been quite the high school football coach as played up to be. He was a defensive coordinator in a high school. I personally don't begrudge him that. I think once a coach, always a coach. But the point is, through 4 different stories being told in less than 4 weeks, he has a very, very tenuous relationship with the truth, and it's super weird. Something is weird. This bumbling sitcom dad character that he's playing, kowtowing to Kamala Harris, finding her Doritos in a convenience store, is not the modern American definition of masculinity. And it is, quite simply, to play the same game of checkers, weird. Second, from the DNC, beyond weird is the terrifying proposals coming out from the Harris-Walz, first the Biden-Harris administration and the Harris-Walz ticket about the economy. This is actually not weird. This is terrifying. I read now from The Street. Kamala Harris is Joe Biden's proposal for 2024, and she's given us very scant details about what she would do in 2025. But she's been a part of an administration for 1,300 days that proposes the following: a 44.6% capital gains tax. We're at 15%, jumping that to 44% for capital gains. And that's not even the worst of it. Beginning to tax unrealized capital gains, a 25% minimum, but then it scales up for unrealized capital gains for people making over $100 million. I want you to set aside for one moment the people making over $100 million part of this proposed legislation. Do you know how this works? So let's just say that you qualify. You buy a house for $1 million. That house, as it's appraised in the next year, goes up in value to $1.2 million. You don't sell the house, but you have the house. You now owe taxes on the $200,000 in unrealized capital gains. Want another example? You have a 401k. The stock market does well that year. Your stocks go up, but you don't sell, so you haven't received any money. You owe taxes on the increase in the value of your stock portfolio. You say, well, what if I pay that and then the stocks go down? What if the housing market goes down? I don't know. The point is, both of these proposals, 45% on cap gains, or even worse, taxing unrealized capital gains, it grinds the market to a halt. No more transactions. People stop trading. And you get back now to the $100 million. Well, it doesn't affect me. I don't make $100 million. Those people flood the market. The stock market craters. Middle-class Americans, or everyone with the 401k, get hammered. This is not simply ideologically very far left. This is inane. This is crash the economy type proposals. And these are people telling you that they're here to fix an economy that they've been in charge of for 12 of the last 16 years. 8 years of Obama, 4 years of Biden-Harris, and we're supposed to look at Kamala Harris today as a brand new politician ready to save America from the ills of America they have controlled for 12 of the last 16 years. And third, from the DNC, there are reports out from Nicole Shanahan, vice presidential candidate for Robert F. Kennedy Jr. They're looking at dropping out of the race. Nicole Shanahan says they are so disillusioned with the DNC and its process. Quote, we are taking a very serious look at making sure that the people that have corrupted our fair and free democracy do not end up in office, she said on an episode of the podcast Impact Theory. Quote, is the risk of a Harris-Walz presidency worth us staying in? That is what they are now considering. Why? They have banned us, shadow banned us, kept us off the stages, manipulated polls, used lawfare against us, sued us in every possible state. They even planted insiders in our campaign to disrupt it and create an actual legal issue for us. She's a former Democratic donor, always been a part of the Democratic Party. Nicole Shan, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. looking to drop out of the race and throw their support behind Donald Trump to save democracy. Betting markets like it for the first time in a week or two. It's now tightened up. It's back to almost even in the betting markets. Kamala Harris and Tim Walz against J.D. Vance and Donald Trump. Let's break down the effect of RFK dropping out and the effect of binary thinking on critical thinking with Gutfeld's Cat Timpf next on The Will Cain Show. The Tunnel to Towers, countless veterans' villages. They stand as a beacon of hope for those who've sacrificed everything for the United States of America. These facilities, they're committed to helping veterans achieve stability and independence by providing housing and services to keep up with each of their individual needs. Now, within the village, residents will find support and community among those who truly understand the meaning of service. With several veterans villages already completed or in development nationwide, the foundation and its supporters believe the power of unity and that no veteran should be left behind. Through its homeless veterans program, Veterans Villages, and the National Case Management Network, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation has provided housing and supportive services for over 8,000 veterans since the program's inception. Now, you can join Tunnel to Towers in their goal to eradicate veterans' homelessness and support those who've given everything to this country by donating $11 a month to T2T.org. 95 cents of every dollar donated to Tunnel to Towers goes directly to helping America's heroes. That's T2T.org, how you can help. Donate now to Tunnel to Towers. Cat Timpf coming up on The Will Cain Show.
I'm Dana Perino, co-host of The Five and co-anchor of America's Newsroom. Join me for my brand new podcast, Perino on Politics. Listeners of Everything Will Be Okay will gravitate toward this podcast too. Every Monday, I'm going to talk to people I trust in politics as they tell me what they're seeing and thinking in the 2024 election cycle. As they prep me to cover the upcoming election, they'll prep you, the voters, too. Make sure you subscribe to this series on FoxNewsPodcast.com or wherever you download podcasts and leave a rating and review.
Did you hear the news? Now you can. With instant updates from Fox News for Amazon Alexa. Breaking stories and top headlines, the economy, and so much more. Brought to you by Fox News, America's #1 cable news network. Plus, setup couldn't be easier because everything's ready to go in the app. Just say,
Alexa, play news from Fox.
In Fox News.
It's the latest when you need it, on demand, from Fox News and Amazon Alexa.
I'm Charles Payne. Listen to my Unstoppable Prosperity podcast so I can get you making money right now. Whether stocks are hitting new all-time highs or in free fall mode, opportunities abound. So why are so many potential investors still sitting on the sidelines? In a new season of my podcast, I'm going to get you in the game. After 38 years on Wall Street, I'm ready to impart some lessons and get you invested in the greatest wealth-generating machine in history. Listen anytime, everywhere at foxbusinesspodcast.com or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast.
D on YouTube says, yeah, I'm not interested in men who play video games. Tamara Friesick says, yeah, to other men, you think it's fine. Get up and do something physical or maybe shock her. Ask her how she is. Look her in the eyes. Talk. On the idea that one of the most unattractive hobbies to women is men playing video games. It is The Will Cain Show, streaming live at foxnews.com, on the Fox News YouTube channel and the Fox News Facebook page. Hit subscribe at Apple, Spotify, or on YouTube. Joining us now, the author of a brand new book, I Used to Like You Until. She is also one of the stars of Gutfeld. It is Cat Timpf on The Will Cain Show. Hey, Cat.
Hey, how are ya?
Good. Is that right? Video games, one of the most unattractive things men can do as a hobby?
I was nodding along the whole time you were saying that. Yeah, my experience, unfortunately, comes from having dated a man who was into video games, and one singular man, because I never did it again. Just the thought of, just picture that you're sitting there, you're being ignored while he's wearing a headset and like fighting a fake battle. So now I married a man who fought in an actual war. So I much more attractive to be
I would
married to
imagine.
an actual veteran than a Call of Duty playing man.
What I'm trying to think, and I think we're going to do this in the third segment here today of the Wilkes. I'm trying to think what else is up there. Like if you're ranking your 5 most unattractive hobbies, and this is from the ladies out there, because I know if I want to get like hero status on the internet, on social media, I should go to battle with you right now. I should defend the dudes out there playing college football 25. But I recognize I'm capable of stepping back and going, even if I were in the moment doing it, yeah, this is not attractive. What else is on the list, though, Kat? Like, you walk in the room, what's the unattractive hobby?
I mean, that to me is honestly, I agree with it being like number one, because of the way that guys generally aren't into video games just a little bit. It's often, and then he'll turn it around on you where it's like, you don't understand that I just need time for myself. It's like, that's really one hell of a way to spend 9 hours unshowered, on your couch eating Doritos. But I think also just anything similar, like the guys that are really into those weird fantasy board games is also kind of gross. Yeah. I don't want, ideally, I want to be the hobby. I want to be, I can't wait to see you. I love you so much. But I'm not trying to say I'm not a nightmare in my own way, because of course I am. But
Ann Bretrick says on YouTube, watching a man house cleaning does it for me. So I don't think she's saying it's one of the more attractive hobbies. So I'll run one by you. Maybe one of my, I'm not going to call it insecurity, but when I do it, I do wonder. My wife and I were with another couple of night, and I went into their backyard. We sat down in their backyard to have a drink, and I was like, "Hey, Marnie, are those hydrangeas over there? I really like that." I notice landscaping. I like landscaping. I think a manicured yard looks good, and I'm curious, and I'm not an expert. I wish I was. Like, what's that tree? What's this tree? What's that? So I'm just I'm curious and interested. I would not say I'm a green thumb or I plant, but every time I do, I'm a little bit like, is that masculine? Landscaping?
I think landscaping is. So my husband, he's actually very into, like, he's a little too into it because we don't have a yard. But what he'll do is he'll watch lawnmower videos. He'll watch videos of someone mowing a lawn. I guess he would love nothing more than to just leave this all behind and be like a dude who landscapes in the Midwest somewhere. But unfortunately, that's not where our life is right now. He really does. He wants to be like a blue collar landscaping man. So I think that's his way of kind of pretending for a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Cutting grass is therapeutic. Yeah. Dudes take pride in their grass.
That's not to say that I don't start issues, that I don't start. Like, that's not to say that, like, if I see him watching that when I'm in the room, that I don't make it a problem, because I do, to be clear. I'm like, you can watch that when I'm not, when there's not a beautiful woman in the room.
Yeah. I wish you a long and happy marriage, Kat, because there's going to be a lot of landscaping videos in your future. It's not always going to be attention for you. Something I think you already know. You have a new book out called I Used to Like You Until. And I want to get into some of that. But the book, in large part, through personal stories as well, is you talk a lot about non-binary thinking. And it's worth saying, you talk about binary thinking through a lot of different prisms. So religious prism, political prism. And I think it's worth analyzing this instinct. It's probably an instinct that we all have to reduce things into to binary choices. I want to come back to it in just a moment, but I want to kind of start with something in the news because I think it applies, and that's RFK. And there's this talk of RFK dropping out of the race. And the betting market swung to Trump. And I'm a little surprised by that. I guess we always kind of wondered, who does he pull more from? Does he pull more from first Biden, now Harris, or does he pull more from Trump? And right now it's looking like, shockingly, he pulls more from Trump because with him out, more of the vote swings to Trump. What do you think about this third-party guy, RFK, and him potentially dropping out of the race and his support going to Trump?
So I think a reason that that doesn't surprise me about his support going to Trump, because I think a lot of people, what they really like about him is a lot of the things he's had to say about COVID. And I actually don't think it's the specific things that he says so much as he said things that weren't the allowed things to say. Whether people agree with the specific things that he says or not, I know people will be like, oh, I think he's kind of kooky on this or that. But it wasn't that long ago that people's real life relationships were destroyed over these people veering outside of the acceptable lane of thought on COVID. And this stuff that was, I don't know, most of these conspiracies now turned out to be not conspiracies at all. And there were really tangible things that people lost. People lost businesses, people couldn't say goodbye to loved ones, and people lost relationships over things that turned out to be lies anyway. And that's why I do think, honestly, that everyone does it, right? Everybody has preconceived notions. It's human to have preconceived notions. But I think that it's really healthy and it makes you a smarter, more well-rounded, more creative, more perceptive person to acknowledge that and willingly try to look outside of that and see if what you think is just because of certain pressures or what you think and why you think it.
So as I mentioned, you take this idea of non-binary thinking and you bring it through the prism of religion and politics. But I think maybe the most interesting to me is also just our personal relationships become very binary. And this is from some of the talking points and experts from your book. But I'm going to read this. We write people off unnecessarily. We miss out on personal relationships that could have been fulfilling. For example, someone you might disagree with on guns might have a parent suffering from the same illness, or know a good lawyer who can keep you out of jail. You know, Kat, I spent 5 years. You and I actually knew each other before I went to ESPN and before I did sports. We knew each other at National Review. So I was in this world. I left this world and went to sports, and now I've come back to this world. And I will say one of my favorite things about 5 years in sports was, you stopped. I'm never going to pretend like it's not in there and not part of the conversation. Oh, he's liberal. Oh, he's conservative. Oh, she's this, he's that. But there were so many other touch points at which you could relate to somebody. And the most obvious one was sports. Like, what do you think of the Cowboys? What do you think of this? And it makes people more dimensional, which we are. And it makes people more interesting. And I do think that is a healthier, and maybe it is how most Americans live their life anyway. My 5 years in sports put me back in touch with America and because what you and I do is very much in the bubble of thinking things about politics often. But America has gravitated into that bubble of losing the depth of the person you're interacting with and seeing not how you disagree, but all the commonalities.
Yeah, I'm someone who's independent, and so it's very rare. Actually, it's never happened for me to find someone I'm aligned with on everything. I have a lot of friends that are conservative, but they don't love Trump. I have a lot of friends that are super MAGA, love Trump. I have friends that are very left wing. I have friends that are disengaged from it. And all of these relationships are relationships that I'm very, very grateful for. And I think that there's also this fear. I think that there is a fear of expressing an opinion outside of whatever your team is. If you're seen as, I'm conservative, or, I'm liberal, out of a very real fear, I think, of being ostracized by that group. Because I think as divided as we are, to your point, we're not still as divided in our minds and reality than we see portrayed, not just in the media, but also in our conversations with each other.
What's interesting as well, you live in New York. I don't remember where you're from, Kat, but you're not from New York City.
Yeah, from the Detroit area.
I met your dad one time.
My dad,
I remember I met your dad in the lobby. I lived in New York for 15 years, and that meant, obviously, that I had a lot of friends who were liberal. The majority of my friends were liberal because I lived in New York. It's just, that's the world. That's the bubble, right? I I will say this, Kat, and I don't want to do a tit for tat, or I don't want to I don't want to otherize, but I do think, and acutely since Donald Trump, that I think that many on the left use it as their primary identity. So what you and I are talking about is there's so much more to your identity than your politics. But even though I had those friends, and I'm still friends with a lot of them, and I think I would say this, often socially, I felt an undercurrent of judgment. Like there's a judgment to whatever is going on or what I might think about something that is about how we differ politically. And it didn't define the relationship 100%. There were our kids, our sports, whatever it may be. But I do think that the left has draped themselves in their political identity as their primary identity a little more than the right. I live in Dallas now, and I do think I have some I think I can compare it. I don't think it's as extreme on the right. I really don't. I'm not saying it's not there, but I don't think it's as extreme as their primary identity.
I think so. I think, first of all, that you're correct, that I think it's gotten worse in terms of people getting broken by Donald Trump. I'm someone that my beliefs have been the same. I'm small government across the board, so sometimes it places me at odds with people on either side. But I had a friend who was a very close friend of mine who suddenly it was a problem, the things that I'd always believed, because Trump was running and all that mattered was that Trump lost. I hadn't changed, but all of a sudden things were different. And this is a very close friend that is no longer in my life anymore, because it became where we'd be out just trying to have like a social event, and he'd be like, oh, how are you gonna, be talking about I had the libertarian candidate at the time, Jo Jorgensen, on my comedy advice show, Sincerely Kat, RIP. I had her on that show that I had at the time. And I wasn't even allowed, like, in his mind, to do that, because how could I be giving a platform to her right now? Meaning the time when Trump must be defeated above all else. But I think I've also gotten it from people who, if I'm critical of Trump, people will come after me, call me a traitor, say that. And again, I've never claimed to be a Republican, which is why it's so funny when I'm called a rhino. It's like, no, I'm not. I'm independent. I've never claimed to be a Republican either. But I think that you really, really, really nailed it when you say that for people it could become their identity. And I think something else that I write about in the book is there's this study, and it's very obvious, but moral outrage is more often rooted in self-interest than altruism. It can make you feel like you're doing something to help these problems when you are really not doing anything at all. And I think the perfect example of that is, what we saw even at the convention, the Democratic convention that's happening this week, which is I'm the good team. And so therefore, you're the bad team. Trump is dangerous, as Obama said. Trump is dangerous. And he talked a lot about division being bad, and I agreed with that, but I don't see how calling Trump dangerous really helps achieve those ends, right? Then you get to be good just by very virtue of not being on that bad team. And I think that can be really hard for people to give up, because then it's like, oh, wait, I'm not just good because of the box that I check when I vote, or because I'm not a Republican. Then you have to think about actually getting out there and doing something. That's a lot harder.
That's really good. Moral outrage is more about self-interest than it is about altruism. That is a very flowery and accurate way, I think, of explaining what we've all kind of used shorthand, virtue signaling, right? What you're doing is draping yourself in virtue by having the right opinion. And I've said, and I don't want to spend the bulk of our conversation being like, and the left is bad too, but I think that for much of the left, your vote has become, the ballot box has become your church, and your vote has become your act of penance or your charity. That you're a good person because you went into the voting booth and checked the right box, to your point, or even less, just expressed the right outrage on social media or even in your social circles, that you become a good person. And I think that is definitely something indicative of the left. Now, this is not, I don't want to do this to say everything on the right is right, but I do think this binary thinking that you're talking about on a personal level has really, really inhabited the left.
See, I definitely understand. I get it from both sides, and I explain it in the book this way, where I will have viewers of Fox, and this is not all viewers, right? I'm on tour. I sell out shows. These are Fox people coming to these shows. A lot of the audience is awesome, but there are, of course, those exceptions of people that are like, she made fun of Trump, or she's not a registered Republican, or she votes third party, therefore she's my enemy, and they'll give me those things. On the other side, though, there are people who are on the left who will not speak to me at all just because I work at Fox News. So it doesn't matter what I say.
But real quick, Kat, the difference in those two groups of people that I noticed, though, is the people who require you to be predictable, right? I used to like you until. The people who, on the right, who require you to not deviate from anything they agree are honestly strangers. They're their audience, and you are a personality to them, at least the way you're describing it to me right now. And the people who on the left who are ostracizing you because of your views are supposed to be the ones that already know you on a deeper level and understand those vulnerabilities or understand the layers of you as a human being. And I guess that's the difference. I do think the right is guilty of it, but I haven't had many friends on the right ever go, well, Will, you disagreed with me in this way, and therefore we're not friends. And the left seems to be more willing to exercise personal relationships because of politics.
I think that makes a lot of sense. If I can also get really deep and probably too personal right now, but it's in the book, so whatever. I have experienced that with religion as well. I've had experienced personal relationships where I'm no longer religious, and that's created some rifts in family relationships. I get really deep into the relationship with my mom, who's been dead for 10 years, which not because it was easy, but for me, I'm somebody who I know that I would be happier if I were religious. So I'm the opposite of judge religious people. I know I would be happier. I personally can't get there. But this is another thing where I'm not closing that door. I hope to get there someday. So it's actually more than just that I wish I could. But I think that the key here is to be willing to talk to people. I have many close friends who are very, very religious people who are not judgmental people. I think that this country was founded on individual rights, and I think the more that we could get back to, respecting individual rights, that would be better. But sadly, I think we go more and more towards this idea in the opposite direction, where you kind of have to fall in line. I really think that the key is communicating with each other more, and I really think the key is being willing to have those conversations and not shutting each other out. And I'm willing to put myself out there. So.
And you have in I used to like you until, and I know you've got to go in just a moment. I just want to share two thoughts with you before you go. So when it comes to the other two areas of binary thinking that I mentioned that you talk about, one is politics, and we can talk about this on another occasion. I don't like partisanship, Kat. I don't consider myself on a team. I like to think that I'm a critical thinker. I also think it's interesting that we have to think about over the last 10 years how those two bipolar teams in politics have really changed their underlying policies. And I don't know if that should make us cynical or hopeful to the binary system. I don't know I honestly do not know yet what I think about that. But on the religious front, I'll be interested in continuing to know you. And what I mean by that, and I don't mean to be patronizing or I'm older than you, but I think I've said this to my audience, or I hope, I lost my religion for a while. I mean, I lost faith, and I know why, and it was a lack of humility for me. It was too much hubris and too much intellectualism and these types of things. I know you're going to have a child soon, which is awesome.
Yeah,
and
by
I'm
the
not
way,
saying
I'm
that'll be the thing.
Pregnant. Yeah, for me it was
I'm
trauma.
not saying that'll be the thing that changes it, but it could be the thing that changes it. I don't think religion, as someone who has come around you, like you said, you're open to it. And by the way, I always was as well. I wasn't dogmatic. I was always open. It's not bipolar. I don't think it's...
I'm a question mark. So...
And that's what I would have described myself. And I just think actually getting beyond strict bipolar thinking and just being open-minded and open-hearted is what led me back to seeing that it's the path to a greater purpose. And maybe you'll find it, maybe you won't. But I will say I don't think I got there because I joined a team or was bipolar.
Yeah.
But I was not just critically thinking, but critically open to something that I think is ultimate truth.
Yeah, and I'm still open, and I'm always open to changing as a person, and as I learn new information, and even I'm very excited to be a mom. which is never a sentence that I thought I would say in my entire. And again, you've known me for a long time, so you know how true that is. That I'm 4 months pregnant. I can't wait to be a mom. And as much as I tease my husband, he's truly the best thing that's ever happened to me. And I'm really excited for this. I know like next chapter sounds so cheesy, but it is. I mean, my life is about to completely change, and I can't wait.
It's going to be awesome as long as he gives up video games. All right, you guys should go get her book. It's I Used to Like You Until. It's the newest book from Kat Timpf. As she said, she's vulnerable. She's thinking through these things open-minded and critically and applies it to all aspects of life. I think you'll really enjoy it. I Used to Like You Until. Kat Timpf, thank you so much for being on the Will Cain Show.
Thank you. Great seeing you.
You too. All right, go check out that book. I think that's a rarity, meaning there's a level of authenticity, of willingness to see not just yourself as an individual. Everybody wants to see themselves as individuals, but to see other people as individuals. You see what I'm saying? Like constantly, as a habit, as a practice, walking through the world, seeing other people as individuals. Ryan Hanchett says on YouTube, seriously, Kat, video games are a no-go. A dude can't escape a fantasy battlefield, but to watch videos of someone mowing the grass because you fantasize about having a yard is perfectly okay? I think actually, yes, Ryan. I mean, look, I'm a video game defender. I want to be there for the militia, but can't we, like, as an individual, step inside for a moment, the mind of a woman? Just see yourself through the eyes for a moment. Not what you want it to be and how you feel defensive, but through the eyes of a woman. And Simply Me 12 says, well, if they're playing video games, at least they aren't cheating on their wives. Sounds like someone needs a hobby of their own. Some men, on the other hand, get mad if a woman is reading a book. There's always a silver lining. If you're playing video games, you aren't catting around on the town. Let's get into this. And whether or not, as it turns out, you can get fired and not rehired because you have a bad personality or you're bad at your job. And it's not just because you're black. That's coming up on The Will Cain Show.
The world of business moves fast. Stay on top of it with the Fox Business Rundown. Every Monday and Friday, Fox Business reporters, anchors, and hosts will bring you beneath the stock market speculation and boardroom drama to tell you about the biggest business stories of today. Whether you're on Main Street or Wall Street, Fox Business is invested in you. Listen to the Fox Business Rundown every Monday and Friday at foxbusinesspodcasts.com, Apple, Spotify, or wherever you download your favorite podcasts. With the nomination official and a running mate picked.
We have the momentum, and I know exactly what we are up against.
Vice President Kamala Harris moves on to Chicago for the Democratic National Convention, and Fox News Audio has complete Democracy 24 coverage, hosted by Jared Halpern and Jessica Rosenthal, along with a team of Fox News reporters and analysts. The Democratic National Convention, starting at 7 p.m. Eastern tonight. Listen at foxnewsradio.com or on the Fox News app.
It's time to take the quiz. 5 questions, 5 minutes a day, 5 days a week.
History, pop culture, science, sports, civics. How much do you know? Let's find out.
Who was the first person to walk on the moon?
Jackson or something?
Neil Armstrong.
Take the quiz every weekday at thequiz.fox and then listen to the quiz podcast to find out how you did.
Play, share, and of course, listen to the quiz right now at thequiz.fox.
The saga of Brian Flores and the saga of men who play video games. It is the Will Cain Show, streaming live at foxnews.com, on the Fox News YouTube channel and the Fox News Facebook page. Hit subscribe, Apple, Spotify, YouTube. Jump into the comments. Join the community here on the Will Cain Show. Like Jessica Barnard on YouTube says, golfing gives me way more ick than video games. Okay, Jessica, I'm not even a golfer, but now we're having trouble. Like that's a step too far. Get her out. Yeah, I hear you, young establishment James. Get her out. Van Landry says, when it comes to all the landscaping and cutting grass talk, I thought I wanted that. 20 years after living in New England with leaves, grass, and snow, I now want low maintenance. I want a condo. All right. Willisha in New York City, you have 60 seconds. You have 60 seconds on the clock. You have elected as your leader, Two-A-Days Dan, to make your argument, to the jury listening right now across this country on YouTube, Facebook, and on terrestrial radio. You have 60 seconds to defend video games. Go.
So video games are escapism a little bit. There's nothing wrong with them. They're all diverse. As long as you're, interacting in life still.
What are you doing? Did we just go onto the stage of the DNC? Just throwing a word out there? They're all diverse?
Yeah.
Okay, ding.
Yeah, exactly.
Point for the mock jury.
Yep, exactly. But there's nothing wrong with having a hobby like that. I mean, as long as it doesn't take up all your time and that's all you do, it's fine. The ladies love to watch their Bachelor and Bachelorette and binge watch those shows. So it's not all that much different, but we're actually using our, hand-eye coordination and doing these things. And we are basically athletes. If you want to put it that way, we're basically athletes doing this.
Oh, I like it.
So it's that much different than binge watching a television show, but we're doing a little bit more than that. So I think it's not that bad, and I think ladies should, lay off us just a little bit.
Quick cross-examination. If you're working on your hand-eye coordination through your Xbox paddle and you're basically an athlete, if you're playing Call of Duty, are you basically a Navy SEAL?
I wouldn't say that. I'm not using stolen valor here, but I'm saying that, you work on your eyesight, you work on your I don't know how I'm defending this one. This is a tough one, but yeah.
Some of my buddies at breakfast this morning were giving me a hard time. They said Cain Show is posting a whole lot of homoerotic photos on his Instagram feed from his SEAL swim in New York City. And then they said he definitely thinks he's an honorary Navy SEAL. Yeah. What do you got, Patrick? I see you raising your hand. Wait, by the way, before he goes, any odds on whether or not Patrick remembers what he wanted to say? It was literally 15 seconds ago he raised his hand. He wanted to say something.
50-50.
Let's just see. 50-50 odds. Does he remember? Go tinfoil.
Okay, I had it, and now no. I was going to remember. So the Army's literally, and the Air Force are literally hiring people as drone pilots based off of video game play. Video games are that important.
Oh,
it's become, it is valor. It's becoming valor.
Yep. Pilot simulation.
All right. I was nervous for you, Patrick. I was nervous. Sometimes you're like a lawnmower that's 20 years old and hadn't been greased up. I'm yanking the chain. It's like it gets started, maybe, but it takes a few pulls on the chain. And there at the beginning, I was like, here we go again. This lawnmower's not firing up today. Guess we're not cutting the grass. But you got it out. You got it out. Yeah. You got it out, and you basically said that everybody on video games is now an American hero. You guys let us know. By the way, we have a ranking. I think we have a ranking of the least attractive hobbies for men. We're going to get to that in just a moment, but I want to take a diversion here into Brian Flores. For anyone that's not a sports fan or anyone that is, you could have forgotten, Brian Flores is the current defensive coordinator for the Minnesota Vikings, but he was the head coach of the Miami Dolphins during some very rough years, and years when they got to select former Alabama quarterback Tua Tagovailoa as their first-round draft pick, and he wasn't good. Tua under Brian Flores. Now, why was that? Well, Tua Tagovailoa went on the Dan Le Batard show and explained his relationship with Flores. Listen to this.
If you woke up every morning and I told you you suck at what you did, that you don't belong doing what you do, that you shouldn't be here, that this guy should be here, that you haven't earned this right, and then you have somebody else come in and tell you, dude, you are the best fit for this. Like, you are accurate, you are the best whatever, you are this, you are that. Like, how would it make you feel listening to one or the other? You see what I'm saying? And then you hear it, regardless of what it is, the good or the bad. And you hear it more and more, you start to actually believe that.
So that led to a little bit of a mini debate in sports media about, what is hard coaching versus not abusive, but self-defeating coaching. And I think that is actually an interesting conversation. I do. I mean, I don't think that you have to treat athletes, specifically pro athletes, with kid gloves. But there's an interesting clip going around about Nick Saban, known as one of the harder coaches out there when he was at the University of Alabama, saying he never treated his quarterback like he treated the rest of the team. I don't know if that's true from Saban, but he says he didn't treat the quarterback the same as the rest of the team because everyone knows the role of confidence. It's real. confidence is like the ultimate performance-enhancing drug for this job, and certainly for your job, and certainly for athletics. I don't know about different sports, like the role confidence plays in degrees, but since my sons are so into soccer, and for that matter, also a place kicker, I think it is gigantic in those two jobs. Probably golf as well, but like in soccer, confidence is literally a performance-enhancing drug. You will play markedly. I'm going to say 30% is a swing, and it could be more than that. If you believe in yourself and you think everybody else believes in you, you will play 30% better than if you feel like nobody believes in you and your coach thinks you stink. I haven't thought about quarterback, but my guess is that Tua's on to something here. And if somebody is telling you every single day that you stink, you don't belong, and you're bad at your job, you will begin to believe that. You will. And then you will literally be what you believe. You will be worse at that job. But that's not actually the part of the debate that stuck out to me. Because everyone on ESPN is kind of having this conversation about hard coaching versus confidence building. What stuck out to me is the same people on ESPN. And I just want to say, I'll ask the Willisha, because I don't want to be the guy that's always like, oh, well, I've been involved in all these race debates, so it's something that I noticed. But if you notice, I'm not mining here. This is not needle in the haystack stuff. Brian Flores sued the NFL for racial discrimination because he has not been rehired as a head coach in the NFL. And when he was fired, the conversation was, well, the Dolphins were literally tanking, and they put him in a position to lose, and that set him up to fail, and they wouldn't have done that to a white coach, and they would have had more time. And then he's not rehired. And it's like, well, it's because he's a black coach. And my point is, my point in all this is, it's a little bit like our conversation with Kat Timpf about seeing people as individuals. You want another example? I'll give you another example to show you how this happens over and over. Eric Bieniemy, for a long time, was the offensive coordinator of the Kansas City Chiefs. And a lot of offensive coordinators under Patrick Mahomes, or over Patrick Mahomes, got head coaching jobs. Matt Nagy, who else? There's like 3 of them have gone on to get head coaching jobs. And everybody's like, well, if all of those white coaches get jobs, but Eric Bieniemy doesn't, then it's once again the NFL is racist. And my constant rebuttal would be, and was, and still is, what do you know about these people as individuals, right? If you walk through the world thinking everybody hates you because you're black or white or Mexican, whatever, you have given yourself a hall pass on your individual characteristics that might be impacting how other people see you. Maybe not everyone around you is racist. Maybe you're the bad roommate. Maybe it's your personality. And we have to know these things before we indict everyone. And when I say everyone, if you're suing the league, you're suing 32 owners. So you're saying 32 owners don't like black head coaches. Instead of your reputation, your personal abilities, your personality have become well known. And people don't want that. And I wouldn't want that. The ultimate asset in the NFL is a first-round drafted quarterback. It sets your franchise up for 10 years or sets it back for 5 years. It just is death or life. And I'm going to put that in the hands of a man who is going to berate him? No way, man. And so my whole point of this is, I don't see that conversation in sports right now. Literally a year to 2 years ago, everyone today that is talking about how bad of a coach Brian Flores is, and that's what they're all saying. Like ESPN analysts are not defending this as hard coaching. They're saying this is bad coaching. Literally a year or two ago, we're saying, oh, well, Brian Flores is not getting jobs because he's black. And I don't hear any accountability for that nonsense, which I would say is toxic, cancerous, and divisive nonsense today. I hear no accountability for calling everyone racist. Now, my question to you guys, who am I today? Am I the guy forcing race into the conversation, or am I the guy with a memory? Which one am I today?
I don't think you are at all, because the perfect example of this is Angel Hernandez sued MLB for racial discrimination, but it's a lot easier to objectively judge an umpire because they have scorecards. We don't know what goes on in those coaching locker rooms, but now that we do, it's seen, and it's a big story, and the Flores name is out there and memorable.
Yeah, and I think there's a need to bring it in. You're not just bringing race into it. I mean, when things like this come up, that is bad coaching. That type of what Tua just said is an awful thing. So it should be brought up.
And I guess what I'm upset about is what I would call drive-by race baiting or drive-by accusations of racism.
Mm-hmm.
We do this. It consumes our cycle, whatever it may be. Look, you think anybody's ever gone back and said, what are the facts on Bubba Wallace in the garage? Like, we know the facts, by the way, because we've seen there was it even an FBI report? I think the FBI was called in to investigate that. There's never an accountability. So if you ask people on the street, the average person, did someone hang a noose in Bubba Wallace's garage? I think they're going to go, yeah, that did happen, right? And just like, hey, did Trump call Nazis and white supremacists very fine people? Yeah, that did happen, right? No one paid. The most obvious example is everybody goes, the correction in the newspaper is on page 2 and at the bottom of the page. but the lie was in 12-point font on the front page, before. And it's like, no one ever comes back after torching the village down to go, hey, was the village really infected with Ebola? Did we need to torch the huts? No one ever goes back to it. Like this, we go on, we destroy the village. Why? Ebola. Was there Ebola? Who cares? Ebola. It's like everything's racist, but we never go back to say, even after evidence shows like this, Brian Flores will never be a head coach in the NFL. Do we all agree with that?
Yep.
He's done.
Yep.
Will he ever get a head coaching job in the NFL?
Very slim chance.
I think no. And it'll have nothing to do with his skin color. Nothing to do with his skin color. I don't know. At some point, we have to have a corrective mechanism in real time and also after the fact so that we can. This is healing the country. Facts, truth, and accountability heals the country. Drive-by accusations of people's internal motivations with no evidence is what divides the country. And that's not a denial of the existence of racism. Perhaps it's actually a protection of the corrective mechanisms of racism, which is going to require truth. Okay. Lighten the mood. Now, back to you guys in New York. Share with me the most unattractive hobbies after video games for women.
Can you see the
list?
Can you see
this?
this?
You can read that to us. Go ahead. This is according to Liz Wheeler.
Okay, playing video games is the least attractive hobby. Collecting figurines is next in that order.
Hold on. So what is that? Is that like Star Wars figures?
Yeah, like collectibles.
Joes?
Yeah, and sports
Patrick's
figures,
got one.
bobbleheads. Yeah, exactly.
What is that?
Is that Hulk
Tinfoil
Hogan?
Pat's got one?
Hulk
Let me
Hogan.
see.
Hold on.
Ah, yeah.
So you're number 2 on the list.
He does have a figurine.
And I play video games.
I should have some on my desk. Isn't that what every person does?
Yeah.
Every Pat
Just-
McAfee
can
and
you-
Patrick
can
has
you-
stuff on his desk.
You got Dak Prescott.
Can you just
there.
promise me you won't do bobbleheads though? That's a little overdone.
Is there a new version of that, Dan? Like the pop sockets? Is that a thing?
Yeah, there's
Hank Aaron,
something.
look at that.
It's just the bobblehead's overdone. Even Dan was getting a little weary of it.
Okay. All right.
It was his show for a while.
All right.
there.
Collecting figurines is number 2.
All right, this I agree with. This should be on the top for me, actually, is magic tricks. That should be the number 1 least attractive hobby. I'm just throwing that out there.
Really? So here's the thing. But magic tricks are awesome.
Oh, come on.
I know they're awesome, but like, come on, dude. that's not very hot.
Have you ever been, if Chris Angel walks up and does a magic trick, you love it. When I see it on TV, magic tricks are awesome and you know it.
But you don't want to.
Now, here's the thing.
You don't want to date it.
You don't want to be the magician?
You don't want to date it.
That's why those dudes, have you noticed like the vein of magician? There's the magician with like the vest on and, he's doing it and he's goofy and I could see how so what the alternative is the Ed Hardy magician, right? Like the Vegas guy wearing Ed Hardy with a ton of tats and piercings and he's gone the other way to show you he's actually a grungy magician. So he's cool. Yeah. He's mysterious.
Yeah. I like the goofy ones.
All right. What's next?
All right. Online trolling is unattractive. I didn't know that was a hobby, to be honest.
Heck yeah, it's a hobby.
Is it?
Oh, yeah.
Damn.
Yes. Who do you think yes. Like, if we were looking at internet comments, any particular platform, and I love you guys in the comment section. I do. I want you in the comment section. But I'm asking you in the comment section right now, the people around you, how many are bots and how many are professional trolls? Like, when I say professional trolls, like, they devote too much time to this.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And by the way, I want you all here. But either way, you're in the comment section right now on Facebook or YouTube. You recognize another person in the comments or YouTube that is real, and someone I would say, for example, is a member of a community with you here that you're having an actual conversation with versus online trolling. I think we can all agree that's pretty unattractive. What's next to it,
All right, let's see what we got. Gambling is next on the list. I mean, that could ruin
That's
your
a problem
life.
for a lot of dudes.
So yeah, that's a real bad thing.
I think they just don't want to see obsession with that.
And then next is building model trains. I mean, that's hot. Come on.
Come on.
Yeah.
What about like a battlefield?
Go down. Give me the end of the list.
All
Go
right.
through them all.
Taxidermy is next. Comic book collecting and bird watching. The older I get, the more I understand bird watching. I'm just throwing that out there.
Hold on. Taxidermy. Is that like if you have taxidermy in your house or if you are a taxidermist?
Both.
I really don't know what that means. Like, because women don't like taxidermy. They don't walk deer. They don't like deer heads on the wall.
Nope.
They don't. But I don't. I like that. I like that. But or is that if you're actually a taxidermist? Because yeah, I could see how like walking into a house of half taxidermied animals would be a real turnoff.
But that taxidermy is a profession. I don't count that as a hobby. That's an actual living. So I guess it would be just having taxidermy.
Will, have you ever had one of those things in a house or anything? Like a deer or
Absolutely.
Or a cow? Or
What are you talking
From
about?
Texas.
Yeah.
I'm from a small town in Texas, James.
Yeah. It's a rhetorical question.
I've had ducks, pheasants. I have actually never had a full-on myself deer mount. European mount. European mount's just the rack, not the full-on head. Yeah. But I'm not dying to get one in my house right now. I don't have one in my house right now. I should get one in this studio.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just put a big old
Right above you.
Got a
Yeah.
maybe a longhorn. Big old.
That's a little different because it's not, something you shoot.
You don't hunt those, yeah.
If you got close
But
enough.
okay, really quickly, then what is the converse? What is the most unattractive hobbies for women in the eyes of men? Now, there's been a couple nominations pre-show today, so what do you think is the most unattractive thing for a woman? Hobby.
I'll go pretending to be a foodie or an influencer. That is a bad hobby for me, I think.
So you're going out on a date with a girl and you find out she's an influencer. Is there a threshold on that? Like if she is a certain, like she's super big, does it get okay for you?
So I'm like
Like the
Kat.
difference between a wannabe influencer and an influencer.
I'm like Kat. I did it once, and I'm never doing it again in a relationship. I've been through that, and it's not.
So
happening.
Zach Bryan is dating an influencer from Barstool. That would be a turnoff for you.
Yeah, and I think his fans are getting a little, hey, you might want to like tone it down a little bit, kind of thing of her. So
Shane Gillis is dating a girl my age now, and she's, I don't know, somewhat unpopular among those fans.
She's an influencer?
Yeah, she's like in the city, friends of friends, but little. They're all a little self-centered. I'm gonna get in trouble.
I'm trying to think what the most unattractive hobby is for a woman.
Crocheting.
I
I got a good one. I think there's a video game
crocheting
equivalent.
wouldn't be it. What?
I say this as someone with Taylor Swift on my workout playlist, but I think not in moderation. Moderation is fine, just like video games in moderation is fine, but anytime there's a super obsession with Taylor Swift, I think it's a major red flag.
And I would add,
I think of like teenagers.
It's like it's mid-20s too. Cats.
I would add like anytime they become obsessed with something that makes it their personality. So like you have Disney, adults, where it's like that's everything about them is Disney. It's same with Swifties. Like you have the people who just listen, and then you have the people who are Swifties, and that's their entire personality.
Okay. I got one. I got a controversial one. This is where we're going to end the show today, but we're all going to be honest. All right. You meet a girl, and she's super into sports. She's super into football. She has a lot of takes. She's ready to talk to you about the Broncos versus the Jags this weekend. And I want you to be honest.
That sounds, yeah. When you're 19 or 20, it sounds fantastic.
I see you sitting back 2 days because because you know I'm telling the truth.
Yeah. So there's definitely a
I'm on to something.
There's
here.
a spectrum there on that.
There's
for
a reason
sure.
for that. There's a reason they're so into it.
There's a spectrum on that for sure. There's being interested in
But
sports.
you know what? My mom is into it. My sister-in-law is into it, and I never judge them. Now, never. And I love it, and I talk it with them. But they're not trying to impress me. Do you know what I mean? That's the thing. If it feels affected, like you're trying to impress me, or you're creating, that's the whole thing. Maybe that's Disney, maybe that's Taylor Swift, maybe that's influencing, and maybe that's the sports thing. If you're image creating, it's a turnoff. You know what I mean? Like, if this whole thing feels like an affectation, it's a turnoff. If you're genuine, then it comes with kind of some humility, and I'm into it, and you're not trying to be an expert, but I just like it, then it's not. It's not. And I think that is the tie, the thread that goes through for men. Just don't try to impress me. Quit trying to affect something, an image to me, whether or not it's Instagram, sports, or with Taylor Swift. All right. Jump into the comment section on YouTube, Facebook. Let us know what you think. You're always welcome here to the Will Cain Show. Bring your comments in. We'll revisit them later this week. Same time, same place. Next time on the Will Cain Show.